Let's travel back in time, all the way to the 9th century BC. We're in the northern kingdom of Israel, and things are not going well. The whole nation is on the verge of collapse, caught in this epic crisis that's about to pit a powerful king against a defiant prophet. This is a story of politics, faith, and, frankly, survival.
So, what's at the heart of this crisis? It's something simple and incredibly brutal. No rain. I'm not talking about a dry spell. We're talking about a devastating drought that has been scorching the land for over 3 years. The capital, Samaria, is gripped by a terrible famine. This isn't just bad weather, folks. This is a full-blown national catastrophe.
You know how it is. When a whole nation is suffering, people start looking for someone to blame. And in this story, the two biggest figures in the kingdom have very different ideas about who's at fault. King Ahab, he points his finger straight at the prophet Elijah, calling him the troubler of Israel. But Elijah, he's not having it. He fires right back, saying the king is the one to blame for abandoning his God. This is the conflict right here that we're going to unpack.
All right, so before we get to the epic showdown that's coming, and believe me, it is epic, we need to get to know the key players, because the deep divisions in this kingdom, they don't just run through the dry fields, they go right up the steps of the throne.
Okay, take a look at our cast of characters here, because this really shows you the fault line running through the kingdom. On one side, you've got King Ahab and his queen Jezebel. She's a Phoenician princess, and for political reasons, they're pushing the state-sponsored worship of a god named Baal. On the other side, you've got the prophet Elijah, defending Israel's traditional covenant with its God, Yahweh. And then, caught right in the middle, you have Obadiah. Get this, he's the governor of Ahab's own palace, but he's secretly hiding prophets of Yahweh from the queen. The division isn't out in the country, it's inside the palace walls.
And this wasn't a quick problem. We're now in year 3, and the situation is absolutely desperate. The famine is so bad that King Ahab himself is out there personally scouting the land for any patch of grass he can find, just to keep his horses and mules alive. That one detail tells you everything you need to know about how far things have fallen.
And this leads to an absolutely explosive confrontation. When Ahab finally tracks down Elijah, the very first thing he says is an accusation. Are you the one who's troubling Israel? Elijah's response is immediate and it's fearless. He flips that charge right back on the king, saying, I haven't troubled Israel, you have, by abandoning Yahweh for the gods of your queen.
So the accusations have been made. The lines have been drawn. Now it's time to settle this thing. Elijah proposes a very public, very high-stakes test of power up on Mount Carmel to prove once and for all who's really in charge here.
Now, to really get this, you have to understand the divine contest that's being set up. The state religion, the one Jezebel brought in, is all about Baal. He's the Canaanite god of storms, fertility, the guy who's supposed to control the rain. And here's the supreme irony. For 3 years, the god of rain has been completely powerless. So Elijah is forcing a direct challenge, right on Baal's home turf.
So Elijah sets the terms, and they are just brilliantly simple and dramatic. 2 altars, 2 sacrifices, no matches. The prophets of Baal can pray to their God, and Elijah will pray to his, and the God who answers by sending down fire from the sky, the God who controls not just rain but lightning, that's the God who wins it all.
What happens next is just hours of failure. From morning all the way till noon, the 450 prophets of Baal are screaming, they're dancing, they're chanting, they even start cutting themselves in this ritual frenzy. And the result of all that noise and all that effort? Absolute deafening silence. No voice, no answer, no fire, nothing.
All right, now it's Elijah's turn, and you have to appreciate the showmanship here. He's not just preparing a sacrifice, he's making a powerful statement. First, he rebuilds the old altar with 12 stones, one for each tribe of a united Israel. Then, just to make the miracle completely undeniable, he has them drench the entire thing, the wood, the sacrifice, everything, with 12 barrels of precious water, over and over, until it fills a trench all around it. There's no way this can be a trick.
Then, after one simple, direct prayer from Elijah, it happens. Fire falls from heaven. And it doesn't just burn the sacrifice. No, it consumes everything. The wood, the 12 stones of the altar itself, the very dust underneath it, and it even licks up all the water standing in the trench. It is an overwhelming, absolute display of power.
Now you'd think a victory that decisive would be the end of the story, right? Game over. But as we're about to see, this narrative takes a stunning, immediate turn, from this moment of public triumph to a deep, personal crisis.
In the immediate aftermath, everything seems to be going Elijah's way. The people see the fire, they declare the Lord, He is the God. The false prophets are dealt with according to the law. And then, after Elijah prays, a tiny cloud appears over the sea, and soon the sky opens up, ending the 3-year drought with a massive downpour. I mean, it looks like a complete and total victory.
But when King Ahab goes back and reports all this to Queen Jezebel, she is completely unmoved by the miracle. Her response isn't awe or repentance, it is pure rage. She sends a messenger straight to Elijah with this absolutely chilling promise. By this time tomorrow, you will be just as dead as the prophets you killed. The political power structure, it hasn't budged one bit.
And that single threat completely shatters the prophet's victory. So now we follow Elijah as he flees from the absolute pinnacle of his public power into the darkest depths of his own personal fear and despair. I mean, can you imagine the whiplash? The man who just faced down 450 prophets and a king is now running for his life from one woman? He flees south, deep into the wilderness, and just collapses under a tree. He is so spiritually, physically, and emotionally exhausted that he actually prays to die, feeling like everything he did was a total failure. After a divine messenger revives him, Elijah starts on this symbolic 40-day journey to Mount Horeb. Now, Horeb is just another name for Sinai. This is the very mountain where Israel's covenant with God began. He's not just running, he's on a journey back to the source, desperately searching for some kind of clarity.
So, at the mountain, Elijah witnesses another incredible display of raw power, exactly the kind of spectacle he saw on Mount Carmel. There's a wind so strong it shatters rocks, a violent earthquake, and another raging fire. But here's the really crucial part of this slide, that last line. God's presence was not in any of those loud, dramatic events.
And this is where the entire story pivots. After the wind, the earthquake, and the fire, there's what the original Hebrew calls kol dimamala daka, which you can translate as a sound of thin silence, or a still small voice. And that is where God speaks to him. The message couldn't be clearer. True divine work doesn't always happen in the fire and the thunder. Sometimes it happens in the profound quiet.
So when God asks Elijah, "What are you doing here?" the prophet just pours out his heart. He says, "I'm the only one left, I'm the last faithful person, and even after that victory on Carmel, the whole system is still trying to kill me." His sense of isolation and failure is just total.
Now, God's response to this despair is not what you might expect. It's not a word of comfort or sympathy. Instead, it's a reality check and a new set of instructions. It shows Elijah that the story is so much bigger than his own personal crisis. First things first, God directly corrects Elijah's perception that he's alone. He reveals a stunning number. There is a faithful remnant of 7,000 people left in Israel who have not given in to Baal worship. Elijah's despair was based on a completely false premise. He was never alone to begin with. And then, it's time to get back to work. God gives Elijah a new mission. He's told to anoint 2 future kings, one in a foreign land and one who will eventually overthrow Ahab's dynasty in Israel. And most importantly, he's to anoint his own successor, a prophet named Elisha. The point is this: God's plan is moving forward, shaping the future of the entire region, and it will continue long after Elijah is gone.
And so that's the question we're left with, isn't it? The fire on Mount Carmel was this spectacular, public victory, but it didn't really change the queen's heart or the kingdom's politics. The real lasting change, the political overthrow, the continuation of the prophetic legacy, that was all set in motion by the quiet whisper in the wilderness. It really makes you wonder what we should be looking for in our own lives: the explosive, fiery moment, or the quiet, persistent work that truly endures.